Imagine a couple deeply in love, yet constantly on the run in a war-torn world. They finally find a refuge, only to discover that the shadow of war is everywhere. What's worse, they are expelled by their own clan because they brought disaster to it. They have to rely on the kindness of strangers to survive, and their only friend chooses to stay on the battlefield instead of fleeing with them. What kind of journey is this? And can they ever find true peace? 21 Ashworth, Naya's P.O.V. 20th century. The sky above Ashworth was a canvas of destruction, painted with the ominous silhouettes of aircraft, unleashing their deadly payload. Bombs rained down from the heavens, their whistling descent a terrifying harbinger of devastation. Humans and non-humans alike scrambled for safety, their frantic footsteps echoing through streets once filled with the mundane rhythms of daily life. The countryside, once a patchwork of verdant fields teeming with crops, now bore the scars of war, a labyrinth of trenches carved into the earth like open wounds. My husband, Ocean, and I watched this scene unfold with a mixture of resignation and despair. For 3 long years, we had been running from a relentless hunter, our lives a constant dance of evasion and survival. Just when we thought we had found sanctuary in Ashworth, the human penchant for conflict had shattered our fragile peace. Our existence had become a tapestry woven with threads of fear and uncertainty, each day a test of our resilience and adaptability. I couldn't help but recall the incident 2 years prior when Ocean, ever protective, had attempted to confront our pursuer. We had been staying at a small inn, our lives briefly stabilized by steady employment, I as a barmaid, Ocean as a writer at the local printing mill. For 6 blissful months, we had known a semblance of normalcy before our hunter found us, forcing us back into our nomadic existence. Our journey since then had been a patchwork of experiences, some fortunate, others less so. We'd found ourselves in Ashworth, hoping for a fresh start, only to be caught in the crossfire of human conflicts. There were times when our pockets were empty, our stomachs hollow, but we always had each other, a constant in the ever-changing landscape of our lives. Occasionally, fortune would smile upon us, granting us employment that allowed us to save for the uncertain road ahead. But more often than not, we relied on the kindness of strangers, seeking shelter in abandoned houses or accepting the generosity of those willing to offer us a night's respite. Through it all, Ocean and I clung to each other, our bond strengthened by the trials we faced together, a beacon of hope in the darkness that surrounded us. Elina was one of them. She had lived 1,000 years and was the wisest person I'd ever met. A woman with integrity and honor. Thank the spirits that she found us at the right moment, or I would have been dead. The wound on my abdomen had healed fully, but the scarring remained. We were in a pub when a group of military men in uniform walked in with their exposed revolver and Springfields slung around their backs. When we left the place, one of them started following us even. His was brought down for anyone to see his face. We immediately knew it was the Dark Lane, that was after us since the beginning. No one knew his real name, but in the supernatural world, anyone who could create chaos from this air was called a Darkling. We ran fast, knowing our powers were no match to his. His ability to bend air was like no other. Oceans learned that the hard way when he broke his spine then first time we were attacked. But then, we had our pack fighting for us against the intruder, but many died that day. Hence, we were shunned from our own community. Running through the dark alley, we took the back roads, trying to use our night vision to our advantage. That's when a couple of shots tore through the air and one pierced my abdomen when I turned to pull Ocean down with me to the ground. My husband hated seeing that scar. According to Ocean, it was his duty to protect me, but I was perfectly capable of protecting myself. But jumping in front of a bullet was really protecting anyone but getting myself killed. If it wasn't for Elina, one of the women in the pub, running into Ally along with others after they heard the gunshot, I would have bled out right there. Elina immediately recognized the silver bullet by Ocean's burnt fingers from attempting to take out the bullet. The excruciating pain I was in caused me to faint, and when I came to, she was hovering over us. She took a good look at Ocean and I before spurring into action. She immediately used an end of a spoon to pull out the bullet before I died. Luckily, It didn't have molten silver inside. If it did, I wouldn't have survived at all. Molten silver bullets were extremely hard to make because they exploded when fired before reaching the target. No matter what, if she was there, I would have been dead. Come on, darling. We must leave now. He was frantic. Elina told us that she'd be back with supplies, but the raid started from nowhere. I was worried about her. She allowed us to stay at her lovely home for months without any fee. Not only that, she'd nurse me back to health. I couldn't leave her in the middle of a war zone. I looked out the window to see a bomb attack the ground in distance with such force that it shook the house we were in. Fire ignited in mushroom-like cloud. Suddenly, I felt his hand on my wrist and we were almost out of the house within seconds. Another bomb dropped closer than the first one. The tremors were a lot more vigorous. Ocean covered my body with his under the threshold of the main door. Trenches. We ran towards it and jumped down, leaving our sanctuary behind. My heart felt heavy. The trenches smelled of raw soil. Human soldiers were lining up for any ground attack. The war was supposed to reach such farther into the countryside. Some of the cities were decimated. We kept running along the lines with my hand in Ocean's. His grip could have broken my bone if I hadn't had the strength to keep up with him. Screams and shrieks reached my ears. My heart hurt for my fellow supernatural beings. They didn't deserve to be in the middle of a war that had nothing to do with them. Innocent lives were being lost and I felt helpless not being able to help them. Suddenly, a hand tugged at my arm. Startled, I let out a shriek. Ocean immediately pulled me behind with unnatural speed. If the world around us was in chaos, the humans in the trenches would have noticed this. We both let out a sigh of relief when we saw Elina. Dirt smeared her cheeks, hands and clothes. She looked like a mad scientist with her hair sticking out in every direction but down. I pulled her into a tight hug, knowing it was going to be the last time ever I'd see her. Just like always, every time we ran, we made sure to not look back or keep in touch with anyone. We couldn't give away our new hiding place. However, she became like a sister to me. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get back. The troops marched into town. Our guards didn't let us cross the barricades, she explained, shouting to be heard over the gunfires. That's okay. We must go. Come on. I tugged at her hand, thinking she wouldn't protest. I can't. I have work to do here. There will be a lot of people injured and I am needed here. She handed me back to Ocean as I watched her in astonishment. She was thinking of her safety first. She was thinking of others as always. But it's dangerous here. I argued. You must run. Take him and leave quickly as possible. She extended her hand to give me the bag she had brought with her. Reaching out, I grasped her hand instead of the brown satchel. I didn't understand her need for danger. Come with us, I pleaded, choking out the words. I can't. Another bomb dropped just out of the town sector. Rocks and blue soil flew out of the trench walls, giving us a rueful smile. She bid us goodbye. Go take care of yourselves. Deep down, I believed that she had a death wish. Immortality made her lonely and without anyone to spend a lifetime with. She ran towards where there was danger. I didn't know what her pain felt like, but we all suffer in a certain way. Hers was loneliness and ours were a darkling. Ocean tugged at my hand and I held on to the little necessities she provided for us. Once we started moving again, I turned back for the last time to catch a glimpse of her, running towards the wounded. She was the only real friend I made since we started running. Apart from my Ocean, I had no one since we left our pack behind. Ocean was my life and I couldn't live without him, but I missed having a normal life. With him, I remembered when we first got married and he moved to my pack. It was right after we found each other. He was a young professor in Ann University and I was a receptionist at dental practice. Our lives couldn't have been any more ordinary. A simple, yet happy life. But everything was destroyed when the Darkling led a group of hunters into our pack. Their target was us. 21.5 Ashworth Maze P. OV 20th century. 1939 Ashworth, Western Hemisphere. Western Hemisphere resembles Europe, and Ashworth would probably be like a countryside in England. We are moving back in time again. The time with Naya and Ocean from 1990 is over, and now we are in the 20th century. We didn't know why he was after us, but we knew if we stayed, we would have been dead without the pack's help. My thoughts were disrupted by another bomb going off. Ocean pulled me to him, covered me with his body again until we followed the trenches to the woods. The countryside wasn't meant for war. The trenches were newly dug when the enemy troops marched into the town's center. My heart broke with every step we took, but at least I had my husband. He was my soul, and as long as I had him, he'd be happy. We ended up in the middle of nowhere, leaving the woods behind. Hills and valleys surrounded us. Sheep and cows roamed around freely without anyone taking care of them. We found a gigantic open barn with a chicken coop in the corner, a haystack upstairs, a small stable near the back, and a lot of farming equipment. The farmhouse looked empty too, not too far away from the barn, but we didn't want to intrude, just in case. I guess this will have to do for tonight. Love. Ocean helped me climb up the ladder when my foot caught the dress skirt on one of the steps. The sun began to set. Soft pink waves made its way across the sky. Luckily, I found a matchbox and an oil lantern just before the darkness set in. Come, sit. Elina managed to get us some food. You must eat. I sat on the hay, wearing fresh clothes that we packed the night before. Ocean carried that across his shoulder. We managed to find a water pit to clean ourselves off quickly before making a bed out of the straws. As we ate, I tried to denote our misfortunes and concentrate on the fact that we were both alive. Unlike him, he was beating himself up for what was happening to us. It was a man's pride to be able to take care of his family, but I didn't care much for that social quo. He tried to live up to it for a short period of time while we were on the run, but all of that stopped when he realized that we might not even be alive to live up to the status quo. Ocean, please. I went to him, took his wandering hands in mine. I don't know what to do. When I married you, I vowed to take care of you. He scoffed, looking around. This is not what I wanted for us. His defeated posture broke something in me. We were from two different packs, but he transferred to mine after he saw me at a fair in his town. Mating was the only reason that allowed a wolf to transfer, and he chose to move to me instead of forcing me to move to his pack like many other male wolves did. I was grateful for it. Look at me. I took his face in my hands. Well, fight whatever is to come. We survived once. Well, do it again. He looked haggard for a 30-year-old man. I wish there was something I could do about it, but I couldn't. He was such of a gentleman and never once forgot to put me first. I'm sorry. He engulfed me in a tight hug, allowing me to bask in the short moment of serenity until his stomach growled. He appeared thinner. Clothes fitted him loosely. We finished quickly, making sure to leave enough for the journey next day. We found some clean blankets for the horses downstairs that he brought up to spread over the straws. There was nothing we could have done about our misfortunes, but I was glad that we had a roof over our head when the pitter-patter of rain started against the roof of the barn. He held me close to his heart, played with my long black curls. His heart beat against my palm, while my head rested on his shoulder. Deep down, I wanted to go back home. The home that belonged to Elina, not the one that was in my old pack, who threw us out because of the amount of people who died because of us. Do you know the reason behind the war? I've heard rumors about the reasons, but nobody truly knew why. We were just attacked from out of the blue, leaving our state absolutely defenseless. Each state is independent and isn't run by central government. Some of the states believe that they need a central government, so I guess they took matters into their own hands. He was a highly educated professor and worked extremely hard to get where he was. Is there any possibility of us trying board a ship to a different hemisphere? I wondered. We'd have to get to the docks. We're deep in the countryside and would have to back towards the cities to get to the docks. In other words, we needed to lay low until it all blew over. I married him when I was 21 and he was 24. 6 years being together was long enough for us. We spent most of those running. I wanted a simple home, a family, a baby, a life that everyone else took for granted. Was that too much to ask for? No matter how much we tried, we couldn't conceive, and am glad for that now. If we had a child, this would have been no life for him. It almost felt like running and living on minimum amount of money was normal. My heart hurt at the thought of that. The darkness scared me. Even though the lamp illuminated a small part of the barn, the sky outside was raging. Thunder and rain shocked the atmosphere outside. We were exhausted from the constant travels, and sleep consumed us quicker than expected. A burning smell woke us from deep slumber. The hay we were laying on caught on fire the moment we opened my eyes. Alarmed. We jumped down to the ground floor to find ourselves blocked by a thick wall of fire all around us. Heat scorched out skin, nearly searing it in places off. I screamed, flailing my arms, trying to reach for Ocean. We ran towards a window with flames, but a beam fell from top, diagonally blocking our way. We repeated the process a couple of times to find the exact same outcome. Smoke clouded our lungs, stealing our breaths. We could heal if we managed to get through the window, but they were all blocked. It felt like someone was doing it on purpose. Naya. He coughed. Stand back. He coughed some more. I'm going to try to get the main door open. He pushed me away from the sparkling fire and ran towards the large barn door that was crawling with blazing flames. The sound of heavy rain reached my ears suddenly. Over the roaring fire. The fire shouldn't be this fierce. Burning holes in the ceiling with the pouring rain. How could the fire still burn with wet wood? That's when I noticed that the lantern had gone out. There were fire everywhere apart from the where it should be. Fear gripped my senses and I ran towards him. Ocean. Stop. He smashed into the unmovable gates, shaking the barn from its core. My flesh burned. A mixture of howl and a scream emanated from his lips. His body was on fire, burning its way through his skin. Without thinking, I used my hands to pat him down frantically. He was on the ground, rolling from side to side, but the fire didn't abate. And oh, Ocean, no. I kept sobbing. My whole body was on fire. Just like him. He kept screaming, shaking until like he was having a seizure. He was out of his mind. My body was searing from my fingertips, and I felt his pain more than I did mine. My scream mingled with his, and our bodies seared with fire. I threw my body over his, trying to kill the flames, but the opposite happened. I screamed from the searing sensation. My body shook in a frenzy. The heat made me melt from within. My body was working overtime to repair the damage. The fire enveloped me just like him. I fell backwards on the ground and convulsed in excruciating pain. The smell of burning flesh attacked my nose, making me gag. This was it. There was no more fight left in us as we both laid there in fire with all our dead sensory nerves. I kept jolting from time to time. Charred flesh replaced our skin. Suddenly, a figure appeared dressed in a dark cloak, but before I could call out for help, my seared lungs gave out. And soon, we were no more. I watched the horrific scene from above, wondering why the pain was suddenly gone. The figure didn't help us, but he manipulated the fire around us so our body burned to crisp. I gasped when I saw his hand produce fire from thin air, like it was coming out of him. The supernatural creature blessed by the fire spirit would be able to create fire out of thin air. Creatures like that were rare. We'd heard rumors about them existing, but never even thought about, let alone someone like him. A hybrid. He looked above, towards me, charging towards me, ready to jump past the black fog around me, past the spiritual veil that only the dead could go through. However, the foggy wall snapped close when a hand touched my shoulder. Startled, I turned around in Ocean's arms when all the memories of all my lives came rushing back to memory. Hellhound, 20 to Renaissance Snay SP. OV, 16th Century Verdi CCI. A large paintbrush was clamped between his teeth, plump lips gripping the wooden handle. I wanted those lips on mine, like last night. I pouted. It'd been lounging on the crimson chaise for the last 4 hours. I needed food and water, but once Lorenzo got in the zone, there was absolutely no stopping him. I complained. Enzo, when my stomach growled loudly. He shook his head before setting his brushes and palette down on the stool next to him. I desperately wanted to see the picture he was painting because he always bathed me in vibrant colors. a maroon chaise, chartreuse curtains, green grapes, a bowl of shiny red apples, and so many contradicting colors. Sometimes, due to the constant clash of paints, my eyes hurt. Lazily, he sauntered towards me with his paint-covered hands, and gently slid them across my bare skin. I moaned, and twisted away from his hand, incidentally frustrating him. Amor mio, you drive me crazy. He huffed while placing his knee on the edge of the chaise, and blocking me in. You know what I love more than you, I said as I dragged my nails down his chest, teasing the band of his trousers. You love something more than me. Though the mischievous smirk on his face told me he knew I loved him to madness, which was only appropriate when he loved me more than life itself. Yes, food. I giggled and pushed him away, finally, covering my body with a white sheet. Enzo flopped onto the chaise face first. Come on. You love food too. For the last couple of weeks my appetite had increased significantly. I doubted that he noticed, but that was only because he was so worried about my consistent thickness in the morning. He wanted me to see a human physician, but there was no telling what they would discover. Instead, I waited to confirm my suspicion, and when I missed my monthly cycle I knew I was pregnant. I didn't know how to break the news to him. We made a living by selling his paintings of me, and if I washed in shape, would we still be able to make our usual income? Sighing, I went to the kitchen lined with tall wooden racks where dried herbs, spices, and fruit jars were stacked unevenly. It took a moment for the wood to catch fire in the rusted hearth stove. I placed a pot on top of the stove and filled it water and cut vegetables. Mi amor, you haven't been feeling well. You must rest. Yeah, it'll help, he offered, and I gasped. The man knew how to eat but lacked any culinary skill. Enzo, we don't want to burn our home down. He smirked, playing with the endless line of jars. His black hair flopped down on his ears, eyes darker than midnight with navy blue flecks dancing around the pupils. So your sickness, should I be worried? Enya. I heard him gulp. Werewolves didn't get sick and achy deep and stressing out every time we were alone together. I may be pregnant, I blurted out. I felt his heart skip a beat. I kept stirring and didn't dare turn around because I was concerned about his reaction. But you're safe, right? The bambino isn't going to harm you, is it? I felt his worried hand on my shoulder. I whispered, No, my love. It's my body trying to adjust. His arms wrapped around my torso, palms spread out on my stomach. He hummed, placing a loud kiss on my mark at the base of my neck. I shuddered under his touch. The mark connected us, completed us. So we're going to have a bambino. I felt his smile on my neck. Relief washed over me at the tone of his voice. So you're not upset? I turned in his arms, glad to see his elated expression. Why? He was taken aback by my question. Because we make our living off of paintings, and if I'm not in shape. He grabbed my chin, thumb on one side and the rest of his fingers on the other, and used his fingers to push out my lips before taking them in his mouth. He was always intense and dominant when it came to our sexual relationship. I tugged his at his hair, hard. Our tongues played with each other, pushing and tasting. I sighed into his mouth before he pulled away, gasping for air. I was offered to paint the new cathedral they are building in the city. My mouth hung open in shock. At first I said no, but now I can say yes. The income will be steady and I can start selling my stonework. He was amazing with his hands. He could carve into stone and create magic. He could glide his fingers over a canvas and create a masterpiece. He was gifted in ways no one could imagine. People were jealous of him, and girls at social gatherings offered their bodies for painting, and probably other things, but he always refused. Being mates doesn't have the feeling of jealousy, but it does mean that he won't cheat on me. Honestly, even if we weren't mates, I could trust him to not cheat on me, though jealousy was a two-way streak for us. He got jealous when men would admire the paintings of me, yet according to him he couldn't help but to show me off. No matter what, it'd always be his. The Medicists want you to paint Santi Dias Ilio Cathedral, I asked, astonished. The Medicists practically own Verdi despite the city having a central government. It didn't matter. The Medicist ancestors built it, hence their power still trumped any type of government rule. Yes, Bernardo Medici asked me personally. He was practically the king, and I couldn't believe this cocky little artist turned down a king's offer. I playfully smacked his bicep in shock. He'll be asking me again with a raised offer, Lorenzo cryptically added. The smirk on his face revealed that he had already been sung a second time, when he sold his first painting to the Sigora who loved my long hair and bareback. We were only 17 and living in the streets of the city. Since then I've become his muse, and he has become the best painter seen in the entire state of Duranadu. I'd been asked to paint many noble families and rulers from inside and outside the state. Then you shall accept the offer. I placed my chin on his chest while he stroked my hair, back with his crafty hands. Your wish is my command, princess. I was more than happy with his reaction. I didn't know what his reaction was going to be. It was something we spoke of, but we weren't completely against the idea. It seemed like we were finally going to get our happy ending. 22. 5 Renaissance Nayas P. OV, 16th century Verdi CCI. I was exiled from my pater. The Alpha caught me with Enzo in a compromising position. We first met when we were 15. He was one of those boys who stood outside marketplaces, drawing whatever inspired him. He was still in his pack, so he could afford pricey paints and canvases. Before he was banished as well, he made a sketch of when he saw me for the first time, and told me it was love at first sight. I fell, head over heels, for his charms. The paintings and sketches he made of me after we accidentally saw each other in the town center drew me to him. I started making excuses to roam around the market each day, and I would find him waiting near a stone bridge that connected the city and the farmland. He'd paint landscapes, bustling market streets, cramped townhouses, and people. He'd watch him, just like many others who stopped, as he painted marvelous whimsies. When he was done, he would hand me a sketch of myself from different angles. Our attraction grew, and I started to wait for him in secluded places, hidden from every honest prying eyes. When our packs found out about our pre-mating relationship, we were forbidden to see each other. Though, as always, Enzo had other ideas. He broke into our pack, in the dark of the night, and took me away with him. He felt me cry every night when I was away from him, and I felt his anger every day when I was caged in my father's house. He couldn't live without me, and I didn't want to live without him. We didn't know we were mates back then, and even though we were worried, we decided to choose each other. Luckily, we realized we were mates when he turned 18, and by then we had a place to live and steady income. He was an aspiring artist and I supported him 100%. I would go wherever he was summoned and sew new clothes to model for new paintings. I remembered watching the builders and architects as they created buildings of art. In the hills on the outskirts of Verdi we hid from our packs while he painted me. Our extensive time together created a bond where we could feel each other's feelings, emotional and physical. We didn't care about finding our mates. We chose each other, like how the humans had a choice. Little did we know, we were actually mates. We struggled, in the beginning, but Lorenzo did everything in his power to keep a roof over our heads. As for the nights we didn't, he made sure there was enough to eat, and he kept watch while I slept. That's when he decided to start selling his paintings as paintings since he had no time to paint while he was working, transporting stones and sculptors. He watched them carve the blocks of stone, hacking and chiseling, to create shapes. His eyes lit up when he talked about what he had seen and, out of pity, a maestro decided to showcase his artwork in the next exhibition. That was a period of prosperity, and of art and architecture. His hard work paid off and he sold his first piece at the exhibition. I was flattered by the fact that someone liked his painting, and me, enough to buy it. Since that exhibition and that day, we haven't looked back. My morning sickness lessened when I woke up the next day. Lorenzo was going to speak to a physician to see if there was anything to remedy my illness. Maybe, if it could work on humans, it could work on me. After deliberation, he decided to take me with him to the Medici Palazzo. So the family sent us a horse-drawn carriage to ensure our safe ride. We wore our best clothes. A navy blue embroidered doublet, brown trousers, and a white shirt for him, while I wore a gold-orange courtesan's gown with long frilly sleeves. My hair waved down to my waist and a braided headpiece haloed around my head. "What are you doing?" I swatted it at the hand that was trying to crawl its way up my leg and under my skirt. Even though we were hidden in the carriage, we could hear the bustling marketplace, and I'm sure they would be able to hear us if we were loud. Then, he peppered kisses down the side of neck before he abruptly stopped. "Sex won't harm the bambino, right?" His concern confirmed my doubts from previous day. He wanted our child. He wanted a family too. "No, my love," I said, and we made love behind the closed curtains of carriage. It swayed every now and then, making me giggle. It was quick, heavy and hot. We reached our destination by mid-noon and we were taken, through doors with stone arches, to the private quarters of the Medici Palazzo. I adored the intricate designs carved into the architecture, and I couldn't wait for Enzo to create something that would be adored like this. I wanted people to gasp when their eyes fell upon his work. There were many paintings I recognized from artists who were competing with Enzo, but he was asked to paint the new cathedral. Not them. My chest swelled with pride. Excited, I hurried along. My stroller Enzo Donati and Donati. "How lovely to make your acquaintance." Signor Tomas Medici and his wife, Signora Hira, greeted us. The dining area was filled with arcs of stained glass, allowing beams of light through. Colorful spots dominated the stone floor, and it was simply beautiful. When we had nothing, before we were mates, we'd walk by places like this and wonder what it would be like to walk inside of fortresses. Being here was a dream come true, and, especially with our child coming, life couldn't get any more perfect. We made small talk, and I was touched by their kindness, though I couldn't shake a certain coldness from my skin. I tried not to pay attention to it, considering I was pregnant and had been throwing up every morning for a month. So I chalked it up to the pregnancy. While the men spoke of business, the women conversed about fashion and upcoming events. Enzo caressed my thigh every now and then to make sure I didn't feel left out. When the food was served, I felt slightly sick, and I discreetly pushed the nauseating dishes away. Though when Segura Hira noticed, a huge knowing smile stretched across her face. I politely requested that it be kept a secret, considering that I was still in the early stages pregnancy. Segura Hira was a kind woman, but it was rumored that both Segura Hira and Signor Tomas were cheating on each other. Their marriage was for a show, since it merged two great houses together to strengthen their power. The dinner celebrated Enzo's acceptance of the honor of painting the new cathedral that, hopefully, will become a monument one day. The grape juice I swapped for wine wasn't as good as the alcoholic beverage, but due to circumstances it was going to have to do. My throat felt dry even after drinking water, and the dryness of my drink surprised me. I kept swallowing in big gulps, trying to get rid of the dry sensation in my mouth, but I didn't succeed. My lungs started to constrict and I was struggling to breathe. "The amor, what's the matter?" Enzo asked as his hands suddenly found their way to my back and stomach. "Can't breathe." I heaved, my body convulsing. "Enzo," I heaved. I was petrified by the way my body was responding. Was it the baby or something else? I nearly fell to the ground, but Enzo held me in his lap on. I heard screaming and shouting, and blood rushing out of my ears and nose. My eyes burned red, and the colorful rays of light became blurry, the perfection ending within seconds. Above me, Enzo was screaming, his hands running all over me. "Poison," he cried out loud. His lips kept moving, but I couldn't process anything he was saying. My body was aching, and every limb numbed quickly while my heart burned like the dying embers of a fire. Per favor, the amour, Enzo cried in a broken state. I wanted to wipe the tears from his cheeks, but I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My body dispersed within seconds and I was no longer alive. I became airborne. But I watched as my body remained on the ground. A loud growl shattered the silence of the Medici Palazzo. Hera was sobbing at my side as Tomas ordered the guards to bring the chefs, who looked distressed and scared out. It was then. My love wailed for me like a wounded dog tortured by itself, throwing his head back. He screamed as tears began streaming down his face. Blood was pouring out of my mouth, ears, and nose. My still heart hurt seeing him in such agony, but soon he was convulsing as well. Instead of pain, his face portrayed anger. He shook with such vigor that I thought he might shift because he was channeling all the power he could get. Abruptly, he snatched the dagger from the crouching guard next to him and stabbed it straight through his own heart. He twisted and kept the dagger in place. The combination of the deadly poison and the knife in his heart quickly killed him. The poison was probably Wolf's bane, and therefore our body couldn't counteract it. Ocean. I screamed into the vacuum, but no one could hear me. That's when I realized I was hovering, and I called Enzo by a different name. I tried to reach down, but something kept pulling me back up. An unseen force that was stronger than gravity itself. I was getting farther away from Ocean no matter how hard I tried. Our bodies remained lifeless on the palace floor while everyone scrambled around in distress. Blood poured out from my every pore, and the blood seeped from the wound in his heart. The guards dragged in the chefs, and they all looked as terrified as I felt. Sigurd Hera looked horrified, and Sigurd Tomas looked furious. Something else caught my eye. A dark, shadowy figure lurked in the corner who looked up at me. I could only see his lips, but for split second I caught a glimpse of one of his eyes. It was stark white with a dot-like pupil in the center. A cold smile haunted his face before a dark mist wrapped its arms around him in a hazy embrace. No one else could see me but him, and when the black mist surrounded me, arms encircled me from behind. At first I was scared, but the feel of his arms was familiar and comforting. I knew I was safe. Then, in Ocean's arm, a calming presence washed over me when our arms felt for each other. And out of nowhere, the earth spirit voice reached my ears. "I'm sorry, my child. I was home. 23 as YUT O von Naya Anubis Ocean. Ancient as YUT 5th century, Central Southern Hemisphere." The human girl brushed back my long black hair with a wide-toothed comb. It was plated with gold, like most of the artifacts in this palace. Daria, my head servant, once brought it to my knowledge that many women were jealous of the attribute of wolves, or any other deities. In the land of gods, goddess, and magic, it was safe to roam free as whoever as you pleased. She'd brushed back the hair away from my neck to reveal a reddish scar in the shape of a bite mark. I blushed slightly, not being able to meet her eyes. The mark was a symbol of claim of a mate. It was a new concept to us. The spirits had gifted us with a mate, to protect us. That's what the priestess said. She was a seer. The start of the Great War in other hemispheres within the last century had caused quite a turbulence in the spirit world. The seer had warned all supernatural to stop mating with the mortals, to wait for one's mate. Lucky for me, mine had found me already. Daria put my headdress on. Beautiful colored beads that made noises every time I moved my head. I loved them. I loved the gold upper-arm spiral bangle with a profile view of a wolf at the top. Black coals framed my eyes. The beads in my bangs rested just below my eyebrows. A white cotton rest that touched my ankles harboring bejeweled leather sandals. In the desert, everyone was taken care of. The great river Nile provided us with water. The sun god blessed us with plentiful energy, wisdom, power, and wealth beyond any other hemispheres. There was a slight knock on my chamber door. When I signaled the other servants, watering the plants on the balcony, to open the door, it revealed the heir and boy. He was a wolf too, a new pup. eager to learn the laws of security before following in his father's footstep. "Your Highness, the king has arrived safely." He bowed his head slightly. His steel-plated armor engulfed his torso. The cloth wrapped around his lower body fell to his knees. Without being able to rein in my excitement, I mumbled a gratitude towards Daria before following the boy through the long and high-ceiling hallways. Enormous pillars stood on either side them at equal intervals. My feet beat against the stone floors with patterns embedded on them. Many hieroglyphs surrounded the walls. I wove through hallways and staircases to reach the central palace, where the throne sat. The whole city of Ashworth was visible from there. The hall was beautiful. White silk sheets hung from the ceiling. Larger-than-life statues sat on either end. In the middle, 2 thrones took its rightful place. So much gold, bronze, brass, and rubies. The kingdom was overloaded with privileges. Saddest thing was, I didn't care. I looked around for my mate and there he was, standing on the balcony behind the thrones, holding my dress up by my hips and jogged towards him. He must have heard by beads knocking on each other because he turned around with a knowing smile, extending one arm towards me. He waited, my Anubis, slowing down when I reached him. I took his hand in mine and stood there, taking him all in. He washed in his wolf form, which all the gods were known for, their ethereal bodies, their supernatural appearance. To me he was just my mate. He placed his free hand on my face, dragging me in for a soft touch on the lips. His skin was dark from the sun. Gold-plated armors covered his chest, shoulders, and upper arms. His head-dress was resting on the beautiful heavy brass table next the wine-long neck-curved jug. "My love, you look exquisite as always." He placed a quick kiss on his claim on my neck. "Would you care for some wine?" Without waiting for an answer, he self and eyed goblets of wine. Usually a servant was to perform such duties, but when we were together, he usually acquired full privacy. Exactly like before we became king and queen. We sat down on the warm chairs on a delightful summer evening. The sun lowering in the horizon created intricate streaks of reds, pinks, and yellows across the sky. The noises on the streets were dwindling down. Palm trees stood in rows down the length of the road that led to the main entrance staircase. Statues splattered across the city with palm trees. Sand on the far end with pyramids dedicated to the first gods, and from Nile on the other. From here one only saw the large kingdom and the fields near the Nile. From our chambers, the pyramids were visible against the horizon that aligned the 3 great stars of the night. Lines of people returning from the open fields scattered across the open land at the edge of the kingdom. Horse carts and horses helped them bring in the harvest for the day. Those fields fed the whole kingdom. Turning towards Anubis, I studied him. Deep thoughts lurked around his mind. His forehead in a tight crease indicated such. "Is there something troubling you, my king?" I asked this informally. It was forbidden to address one informally who had higher status than oneself. The Great War had reached the southwestern hemisphere. Many brothers and sisters have died. Some humans as well, but they have more numbers now. Soon it will reach us. I do not know how to stop my kingdom from rebelling against me. He placed his hand on mine, creating small circles on the side. "My king, if I may," I didn't want to provide him with any advice without full knowledge of the situation and idea for a solution. That was his advisor's job. "And put, you're my beloved wife. Feel free to speak your mind." His voice slightly adapted the firm tone he usually used in company of others. It had a hint of command there that only supernatural beings could differentiate. He used my formal name instead of my real one, Anubis. I put my other hand over his and stared deeply into his eyes. "Humans are jealous. They will rebel because they want your power, my love. They want your riches, and when they can't get it, they will do anything to make sure no one else would have it." Understanding washed across his eyes, pure black with blue hints around the iris. I loved him in maddening ways. Ways that love shouldn't be experienced. Maybe that's what finding a mate was all about. "Yes, you are correct." He returned his gaze towards the city. "I make sure no one ever goes hungry. I make sure everyone has whatever they require. Yet they resent me." His voice lost the hard edge near the end. "They hate us. I didn't deny his thoughts. I've seen it in the eyes of many humans. Didn't matter what status they had. It was there. I agree with the fact that we shouldn't be worshipped for being supernatural, but the humans could at least be grateful. Without our ancestors, there wouldn't be a human race. We watched the sun set fully, watched the moon goddess rise with grace. The wooden fire's holders were lit all over the city. Smoke rose in the cold, dry sky. Stars glimmered over the desert. It was home. Come, we should eat. Then I should take my beautiful wife to bed. He spoke the last part through our bond. I blushed uncontrollably. A wolf had a high libido. Didn't matter what gender. Sometimes would finally fall asleep when the sun was awakening. He said he didn't want an heir so soon. He wanted to enjoy us. Hence he got his beta to ask the sorceries to make us a potion that will stop us from conceiving immediately. I was happy with that. We ate dinner among yet more statues and a giant dining table that could feast at least 50 people in one sitting. Many higher status employees were sitting away from the head of the table as a curtsy to their king, but ate at the same time. The servant served a delicious supper. I was grateful to the spirits. Later that night we took the same hallways back to our chambers, hand in hand. I bunched my dress near my thigh with the other hand. I wanted more. I was craving for so much more than just his hand touching my hand. He looked big beside my small physique. His chiseled jaws remained clenched until we reached our chambers. My wish was granted soon after. He didn't keep his hands off of me until our bedchamber began to fill itself with light. Asyut to NAP. OV Naya. Ancient Asyut 5th century. Central Southern Hemisphere. Many moons passed since we learned about the Southwestern Hemisphere overthrowing their Mayan kings and queens. It didn't take long for the tragedy to find its way to us. They overthrew the kingdom of Set and Horus. Many winged creatures flew away to seek for some refuge. Everyone began to feel unsettled. Seth and Horus were winged deities with the ability of flight. They came from the northern valley from near the Central Sea. Anubis had tried to take matters into his own hands and decided to build a kingdom of only supernatural. A city protected by magic so humans cowed and tenter. He began to question his human advisors, and it began an internal turmoil between humans and the non-humans. The ones that escaped spoke of silver arrow tips that had the ability to kill werewolves, leaf scars that cowed and be healed, weapons called bolas that are thrown from distance attached to ropes. Once it's hooked to a wing, the person can yank the rope, causing it to rip out that wing. Many other weapons were used to hurt the supernatural. Even though we had powers, they had strength in numbers. Humans were vicious. That night I waited for Anubis in our chambers. I wore 2 long pieces of linen that hung from my shoulders with braided cloth rope tied around my waist. He came hours past his usual time. I sat in our balcony, watching the silent streets below. The walls on each side of the roads held multiple rows of houses that held flickering glimmers of fire. The chamber doors opened. The air carried his scent to me. Inhaling a long fuel of that sweet air I stood, allowing my slim legs, thighs, and hips to be shown. I could see his exposed chest expand. He must have come from some sort of formal gathering because he was still wearing his headdress. Within seconds he was right in front of me. He put his hand on my chest revealed by the gap in my silk garment. His other hand danced without clothes around my back. You tempt me into oblivion, my love. He moved the garment from the base of my neck and took his time running his finger around the scar tissues of his mark. I itched to touch my one on his neck, hidden by the black and gold striped headpiece, held together by his golden crown in shape of like wolf's head. Tell me, what is it that you desire? Just you, my king. I told him honestly. Let's leave. I waited for his reaction. When none came, I continued. Let's take our people and get away. Rebuild again. The humans would have nothing without us. A king doesn't run away. He growled each syllable vehemently. It's not running. It's picking us over them. They are trying to kill us. We aren't them. Hence we aren't trying to harm them. Only thing we can do is protect ourselves. We are still trying to learn the ways of the spirits. It is a new world. Is it not? I argued. He sighed, understanding my concerns. We aren't cowards. Look around you. He took me by the arm, dragged me towards the edge of the concrete railings. Look at what we created. Our kind built this. We are to rule this world. My king, we can't rule a nation that despises us. I put my hand on his chest to calm him down. They could kill you. How do you suppose I live without you? My voice held a tone of fear that alerted him. I've been afraid all day of any harm coming upon him. His features softened at my concern. Son, he removed his crown to set it on the table near us. His arms surrounded me, tucked me under his chin with such tenderness for an alpha. It brought tears to my eyes. My stomach dropped slightly. I never wanted us to end. Fear not, my queen. It'll protect you. He swayed me from side to side, moving his hand down my nearly open back. It's not me I fear for. It will drive me to madness if I ever lost you. I dug my nails into his back. I will increase my guards. My love is all yours. My queen. Do not ever doubt that. He stroked the back of my head. My love is all yours. Through eternity and time. That night I dreamed of fire and chaos. People's screams rose over the fire. Everything burned hot and bright. My heart began to race. I called out for ocean. It was in a different language. It was something I understood yet felt foreign to my ears. My love. The world shook. Arms gripped me tightly, caging me in. The fire grew. Earth gave away beneath me. You're having a nightmare. I opened my eyes abruptly. His arms locked tightly around me, prevented me from sitting up. It took me a while to switch to normal, my breathing from thinking when I was inhaling soot. He stroked my hair after placing my head on his without clothes chest. His other hand tracked down my thigh to the back of my thigh that he hitched up and draped in over his torso. He kissed my forehead over and over again, uttering soothing words to calm me down. You said my birth name in your sleep. He mentioned the dream that seemed so far away. I hardly remembered what happened. Mortified, I apologized. My king, I sincerely apologize. Hush. That's not what I meant. It was nice to hear you say my birth name. It's been a while since you did so. We used to know each other before he took his father's throne. He would come to visit the other royals where my father was the chief advisor. But something changed when he became 18. He made excuses that he admired the kingdom of Sobek and loved to visit the Red Sea, but after a while he was always there. I didn't understand why, and neither did many others with powers. He spoke to me constantly, almost obsessively. He told me we were mates, and I accepted it. Maybe I was naive, but I was infatuated by him. He had me in every way before I was old enough to recognize him as my mate. I married him under the ancient laws which didn't recognize mates yet. When I became of age and realized we were mates, I felt our connection amplify. I remember when I told him how I felt for him afterwards. He had laughed slightly and asked me, now you understand why I always defied orders to go to visit Sobek's kingdom. Then, when he took over his father's throne, picking his royal name, including mine, when he was crowned, that seemed such long ago now. My eyes became drowsy again. I draped my arm over him, clinging to him for dear life. His even heartbeat was the last thing I remembered before I fell asleep. 23 as YUT3 NEAP. Naya. Ancient as YUT 5th century. Central Southern Hemisphere. It didn't take long for humans to rebel. Wolves, witches, AVNS human and bird hybrid and many more were found, brutally murdered across the kingdom with never-seen weapons. Anubis became more agitated. Sometimes during meetings, he started to shift, revealing his black wolf. He was nearly 6 feet tall when crouched. Over 11 when he leaned back on his hind legs before attack. He wanted to send me away for protection, but there was no way I would leave his side. The more he tried to restore the peace, the more aggressive the humans became. I turned to my head servant, sat on the bench under the giant palm tree sewing her own cotton garment. She had a beautiful gift. She sold many of those in the marketplace. I never understood why she still stayed with me. I wandered around the beautiful garden before settling down next to her. Servants weren't allowed to occupy the same plane with one with a higher status. I didn't care much for laws when it came to Daria. She had kind eyes and a genuine smile. She was my friend. Daria, why do the humans hate us? I asked, startling her bliss. She shifted uncomfortably, wanting to get off the bench. I had told her many times before to forget about rules when it was just her and I. She was my friend, and slowly, she felt semi-comfortable to be around me that way. Your Highness, I cannot speak for others, but I certainly do not wish any harm upon you or your kind. She didn't meet my eyes, but did turn towards me. You have such a talent. Why do you still feel the need to serve the palace? I asked, wondering. Thanks to you, I have a stall at the town's marketplace. But so does many of other girls with much better talent. Putting her embroidery hoop down, she finally lifted her eyes. Humans don't like sharing. They will compete until they are the best. So I need this job. We never run out of food. We moved into a bigger home. We have everything we wish for and more. I also gained a good friend. She smiled the last comment. I was pleased to hear that. You are a good woman, Daria. I hope you find a good man. I beamed, to which she made a disgusted face. Men are pigs. They just want their women to cook, clean, and serve them. They aren't like the supernatural. I've seen the love between these mates, and I must say it's quite humbling to see such love and passion still exist. Her eyes glossed over with longing, a type of longing I experienced before I set my eyes on Anubis. I pray to the spirits that you find a good one who will adore you. She blushed, going back to her craft. There was a shift in the air, a coldness crawling its way inside my skin. Looking up towards the blazing run, I shivered. No one around me felt it. Even the werewolf standing guard on the far side of the palace garden stayed still. Thinking about Anubis, I contacted him through our bond. My king, is this a good time? Wolves never felt the cold. The thrill unnerved me. My queen, it is always a pleasure to hear from you. I could feel his turmoil lead slowly. Tell me, to what do I owe this beautiful surprise? Nothing. I just wanted to know if you were all right. I still felt uncomfortable addressing formally. As always, he felt calm and settled. Abruptly, he thought about our transgressions from last night while keeping our connection open. I saw me the way he did. His memories, how he felt when he touched me, how addicted he got when he... My king, that is scandalous. I blushed furiously. Seeing oneself in such a drastic way never got easier. He laughed. The things I wouldn't do to get my hands on you right now. I put my hand on my chest, curled my finger around the length of the gold chain that hung vertically from the thick ruby necklace around my neck. The length of the chain separated into ways around my waist. The golden silk gown stretched out to my ankle with 2 slits for my legs. I would have your hair wrapped around my wrist. My other hand down. Your Highness, aren't you in an important conference? I looked like a fool, smiling, walking alone around the garden. Nothing is more important than you. He told me sincerely, humbled and feeling much better under the backing sun. I decided to stop distracting him. Very well, my love. I'll try to arrive early tonight. He paused, feeling apprehensive. I apologize for not spending much time with you lately. I've never heard him apologize to others. Longing some physical contact from him, I decided to share how I felt when he was near me. Talking, not talking, touching or not. Being around him exuberant had my soul. I shared memories of how I saw him when we were together. Oh, my love, you spoil me. I must return the favor. Thinking of his unadulterated love for me, I replied, You already do, my king. You already do. The priests had asked all the royals to visit the temple tonight. They were usually warlocks who had many ways to connect to the spirits. I had asked Daria to create an appropriate gown for me. She had been more than happy too. Every now and then I felt the coldness seeping through my bones, but Anubis was there. He was trying his very best to keep his people calm, but many with powers were scared and outraged. Some even retaliated by killing humans. Thus the priests had invited us to speak to the spirits, understand the problems, and find a solution. My love, you look so beautiful. We must postpone, laughing at his antiques. I shook my head. He entered my personal chambers while Daria helped me get dressed. Thank you, Your Highness. We both wore crowns with a wolf head made of gold. His was much larger than mine. It suited his big physique. He indicated for everyone to give us privacy. My eyes searched his. The turmoil behind them raised certain levels of alarm in me. Are you all right? Ocean, I asked, placing my hands on his jawline, stroking my thumbs along his cheeks. He smiled, pulling me closer. With you. Always. He looked outside, the moon nearly on its highest level. We must leave. Taking the initiative. I got on my tiptoes and dragged his face down to my height. I kissed him softly, savoring the moment. Tongues teasing each other, craving for more. I melted into him, wanted for this moment to never end. Sighing, he pulled away. Come, we must go.